I got nothing for you, man. Nothing for you.
Hi, friends.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm swell. How are you?
Okay.
Great. We love to see it, hear it.
Yeah. What's the latest? Big announcement?
No, I have nothing. No, I'm not that important, guys. No.
I have something.
No. Looking for someone. My friend.
Hello, sir.
This is NBC. It came from New York. They sent it down. It's a nice night.
It's a good mask. I see that.
Yes.
Thank you again.
Oh, of course. Yes. Oh my God, I have a whole spreadsheet. It's become a whole thing.
Just do a schedule away. Clean up mailboxes. Pentagon, 3 p.m. briefing.
Nothing live until after that.
What's your position today? Your class?
I'm gonna put head on. Well, now in here, Tim's gonna put head on.
Who?
Tim,
What are you doing?
nothing.
Okay.
In the East room,
So who's your class?
this, I think that's gonna be Wilson.
Who?
Wilson.
Okay. All right. But he's she's head on.
No, I am.
Go ahead.
Yes. Or over there. Because they call travel pool, it's a lot easier for the cuts cameras to off you out. And there's good capacity in anything. The cuts, people will be attached to the cuts person anyway.
But who's in the audio?
Yes.
Not the cut position. Not at the head on.
Now he's gonna give me a cable with a splitter. And touching all the channels in the back. Everybody shoot cuts. In case they say, okay, John, well, let's go. It's a lot easier for the cuts camera. Go.
Go on.
camera. Well, you know,
Not like this, and I have to go get some ice cream or something.
maybe. I have not. Oh, he's got a beard that's like, looks like Grizzly Adams. Yeah. He lives in the woods. Yeah. You can't figure out where he lives though.
I think he lives in Colorado or one of those states.
Somewhere up there, right?
Yeah. I don't know how he's making a living, but. Hurricane's gonna take the Gulf.
They're coming up next.
Sunday. Well, it's,
Yeah, that's what I
hit
did. You get that email yesterday?
from,
About working? And 18. From Jen?
maybe says you.
I can't read one, but, yes, what you want to know? Oh, there's a, Mark's got a really big pool for maybe. Oh. There'll be like 3 broken cameras, 1 broken one camera, a couple shop cameras, little cameras inside the Capitol building, I guess for my shots or whatever. And
September 11th, when's,
that's the, who made me cool for the Pentagon stuff. What kind of that?
oh, the Pentagon, that's a Saturday.
I can do it along.
So the 11th, what's the other date?
About 3:18.
Oh, justice for,
Some sort of justice thing.
yeah. I got that in my calendar. Justice for Jay Six.
Yeah, what is that? I don't know what
Yeah,
that is.
I don't know. I put it in my calendar, so it must be.
Do you know what it is? Justice for who? I don't even know.
It's in my calendar. Been a while ago.
There's the email. You didn't get this until this morning? I don't know if you were on it or not. But
No, I'm not.
that came out yesterday
Let me
after.
see who's on it. I can tell you who's on it.
But you would have. Well, raise your hand if you want to work it.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. But you're not a team player. That's what I'm told. That's true. So they told you you're not a team player.
No, there's nothing I can do about it.
Is that right?
What?
Is that right, though? Is that true?
What's that? I'm not a team player.
Yes.
No, probably not.
Why wouldn't you?
Do big events coming up, so please let me know if you're available.
I can tell you right now, as soon as you said you need like 3 roving crews, I was like, I'm out. Out, OUT, out.
Like yourself at the many of these events,
No more.
you're gonna need could be as hot as today. Or they're gonna be all day.
Be out there with a live view on your back all fucking day. Walking. Oh, wait, you gotta go over there. Oh, no, wait, we gotta go over there. Well, 6 o'clock's down that way, so
I don't think I could do it. I wasn't that personal. But I appreciate you giving me a heads up to get my, tomorrow is really, Prime Minister. It'll be tomorrow.
I knew it was coming back.
No, it's
It's
tomorrow.
not the day for that, my friend.
Where do you see that?
What? I get an internal email.
Like the White House?
After
Yeah,
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
So,
We scheduled for tomorrow. Didn't say what time. Tomorrow.
You might want to check your,
the White House? They get the
what your connection. It's gonna be tomorrow.
And can I take a look at that?
Sir?
Can I just take a look at that email?
Sure. I could make film here.
No Israeli media.
So if there's like a.
That's from the White House?
An interim thing?
Yes.
Go up to?
I think
No meeting tomorrow. The Israeli meeting is gonna have
it's
to
very redundant if there's a problem down here.
They should have a second sound. Not asking you, but they should have a second sound.
Of course they should.
If something goes on in the
There should be
interim.
two sound people here on trouble days every
So
fucking.
did you say that somebody's standing by back at the bureau?
Cynthia.
Not me. I have no idea.
Somebody said that to me.
Oh, that's news to me.
Cynthia.
So if something pops up, I would, you know.
Well, it's popping. We have to do their job again? I guess we do.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it just.
I think they should have two sound people down here on trouble days every single time. Plus, that's old school thinking. I mean, I don't know.
I get it.
I think
If you
you're
get
right.
him a feed and, personally, I think you should be on a head-on
Well,
sound.
that's what I'm starting.
And then just give the feed to Melissa. It's silly for you to be on the cuts position. It really is. You should really, I mean, let's face it, anything happens, you could pull off just as fast as if you're on the cut position, but you have more control of the situation.
All right, well, we'll take it as it comes. But
Well, you can go wherever you want.
Well,
I'm doing it head on, that's all I know.
If
Right.
You can go wherever you want.
I may lean that way, so.
Whatever, you do whatever you gotta do.
I think you should plug it to him, so.
Whatever.
Well, if you're gonna want a second sound person, you could go and ask for whoever's standing by, but I doubt they're gonna do that.
Right. Nah, I don't want to start telling them what to do.
The White House. Yeah, it's a very troubling time with Afghanistan, with the bombing at the airport. Yeah. The America is the U.S. has been war with Taliban.
Yes. What's up, man? Yeah. We're off the hook on that one.
Senator Reagan says they're elected to do.
Is the Pentagon briefing it for you or just
There's a Pentagon briefing at
That's
3.
still happening.
Thank you.
Yay!
Did you pack dinner?
You're going to have to do an press meeting that's scheduled this late next year. But pressure right now, the other question. Couple of minutes. So, yeah, that question deals with that. The maid, you know, I did interview her. Yeah, follow it later today. Right, without the days in their lives. Well, yeah.
Stand outside.
Yeah, maybe we could get something right to that thing. But do you have, can you record Zoom? I went on your end.
We're gonna be getting close to the end, not doing both of them. No, not yet. You showed me pictures of your website. Did it make sense then?
So the what?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you showed me, yeah. Yeah, we got, I got it.
No, it's,
Well, how much more do you have until you do some cutting? Yeah.
mid-October.
Mid-October?
The flowers is the best.
I didn't think it would want to be that cold. Because it can get a little chilly in October at night, I think. Well, not, but yeah.
The flowers are 9:30. So October, August 9.
After they start growing, after the flowers start growing.
Boy, you know all about
So you do 9, 10 weeks after August 9.
Yeah.
Mid-October. And mid-October is not that cold.
Well, no, but I mean, at night you get it. But I don't know how hot it is.
It won't get freezing.
Oh, boy.
Hope not.
Another show.
I already got it.
The box.
Close one myself.
Hang in there.
Take the cards out.
Yeah.
Take the whole lot.
Another day. It'll be another week.
Then after that. Then you get quite a lot.
Hard to say.
Sure.
A lot of sand, so you got to fill a lot of summer weight, that's the case.
Yeah.
If not, that's how it is.
I think we're gonna have.
I think, go back and do it. So, I didn't see it soon. I pulled off what looked like a gas bag. It's not. Is it warm? Like tomato plant? Just like a caterpillar. Except that it had, it was about this long, and it had little red eggs on it. I was moving. But when I looked at the rest of the plant,
Hold on a second.
the only thing that was left on the bottom, the stem, I mean, it's all the leaves just the bottom. Stick here. Obviously, I don't snap them. I think it killed my plant because I have like, the flowers that were yellow flowers that were there.
Yeah.
Died. And I had like 2 other ones that are growing. I've got like 4 fucking tomatoes this year.
There's so much fucking cherry tomatoes. And I only have to play.
Yeah.
I got more than I'm throwing them away. 2 plants.
Yesterday.
It's like, oh, here's something. And I think I got to see completely, even more so than I did last year. We did the solar and everything. I guess my dad didn't do enough.
Oh, back to my
I don't know nothing about the insects. I don't.
I've never seen one of those things. I thought it was a
Crazy.
breathing.
It feels like.
I thought it was a cat. I just bought from him. And I told him, this is great. I've never seen a camera dog like this. And it had a long white, like, chicken waiting for you. And it was eggs. She said, no. And everything was too low. And I think it's still not thinking life. Doesn't know.
I would put fertilizer down and see if it's growth will be able to show.
Yeah, I think it's almost too late.
Well, it's still living around. You got the roots.
It's still in there. There's a couple yellow flowers left, but the other flowers,
Sit in the
either
sun.
been eaten. Plenty enough sun. And like habanero plant right next to it. There's no way right over there. Doing just fine. Plenty of those. And my cucumbers, well, they're on the other side. Those are. Yours? Oh, your plant plants. Got the bag. But you'll be on the lookout. They weren't green. You'll be on the lookout, aren't you?
So I passed.
So what do they do? Pull them out? Give you a ticket? Someone has to go. Someone has to go. No, that's me. Would any of your neighbors do that? Yeah. Still, that's not a
Yeah, here.
Yeah. Complete ignorance. Absolutely. Complete ignorance begs for forgiveness.
But
Yeah.
legal.
Yeah.
So we can tag them. Is it sticky or anything, or is that sticky? Like concentrated? Yeah. It must be something else. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure it is. I'm sure. Yeah. 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 Probably walk by your house. Whoa, this must be Gary's house. Not yet.
Not sure, huh? You're not gonna have here. The update here, the delay is tomorrow. I mean, it's different stuff, but I didn't feel like somehow the exercise went down.
Yeah.
Can I do an interview? You guys do. Can I interview you?
Yeah.
About your family, about what's going on in Afghanistan.
All right.
Yeah.
So they're a little bit higher than you.
Your perspective, we see into the interview with the army.
Cancel.
Unless you're going to be at the White House today.
So their property is a little bit more elevated than yours.
No.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
Yeah, this is,
So upsetting.
okay, this is, my God, this is
Great.
cool.
Yeah.
This is pretty decent.
Yeah, please, you can.
I know, yeah, you showed me that. Yeah,
Do you know any Christians in Afghanistan?
Take a picture. I want to see her in Greece. You do it, take a new one. I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see it. So that's like what?
Yeah, and we can talk about it, but yeah,
I don't know everything I read.
trying to report here from the White House so that what's going on. Yeah, tomorrow, at what time?
That's the best time.
Well, I don't know, things are up in the air right now.
Yeah, well, that's That's like what, that's like what.
Yeah, the briefing's always here at the White House, is usually been,
But
do it 10:30.
No, it's not a perennial.
10:30 or
It's usually enough to replant. It's an annual, not perennial. I was gonna say, I wonder if it multiplies.
you're right. But if you don't
What are you doing?
At the White House.
works out.
I have a feeling it will.
I will be under the and I'll just wait.
It's like the same when I go to
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow about all the latest updates we're going to share with our
Cancel.
The whole day.
Everything. Go home. No, I agree.
As long as it's not going too fast, I'll hear you, okay? If you do that lower,
For myself, I will think.
everything goes Joseph. Good to talk to you. Yeah. And so, I agree with protection over down there and safe travel here. And I will get her to be able to share her story for our viewers on the line. 10:30 here. I know, and so I will see her tomorrow, and that's great for all of you and family. We're good now.
Well,
Yo,
See her.
I know, but I
plus NBC.
yeah, I know, but what do you think is the price for it?
Yeah, but what they'll do is they'll start.
Come on.
Last word.
Okay, I'll go there and watch that. No. I'm checking the price at the venue for the wedding started. They said $25 for a wedding that's $45. $25.
If I had ever broken my own.
Yes. They said, right.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, but I'm
I
not doing
am.
it.
So, I don't know what time. Basically, get out of here. I don't know what's going on.
No, I just want to see how much they're ripping me off for. I mean, they got to make money too. I mean, they're going to mark the price up, of course.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
How did Justin do?
I'm not told. All right, just figured I'd ask. You back at work?
All right.
This morning, because I was gone. No, I wasn't, no, I was still home. I was still home. Yep, I was still home. But I'll be here late, I'll be here late tonight, there you go.
I don't go back to work.
Make it happen. Don't
Lap number 2 coming up.
When I buy that one,
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
no, nothing. You just don't know.
I'm talking to me. You can do it. All right, have fun.
Now let's start up.
See you.
All right, I'll talk later. Okay. Okay. Bye.
Okay. I've seen him here, and I saw him fall on the station. No, I was part of 12. That's why I saw the letter. I was looking at Chester. I'll stick myself. Is that like in because I know they understand. Yeah, they're all over.
Hey, Phil.
Look at this, man.
Yeah, I know. I swear. Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
Hey, Joe.
There. Go on. What do you know?
So you're retired?
I am.
That's what I thought. Nothing one should be. Nothing's gonna happen until that's over. Nothing's gonna happen until that's over. He knows our around the world. He's good, but we don't know.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course.
We don't know. I think the US has to go back to the war right now.
Thank you.
Very intense.
It is.
China. China, they say. Well, actually, China military is business. They can buy off the salary. What he does is they want those rare earth minerals. Taliban can sell their rights to the minerals in exchange for something. for one? In an interview that I definitely understand.
So, you guys confirm this?
Which was just as well. Oh, yeah.
Our people,
They got injured.
just between us, our people are like, the numbers all over the place. At the very end, it could be 15. Like, I think part of the problem is there are a lot of there's a bunch of, like, really, really badly injured.
They're on the ground, they're still trying to figure out exactly.
But I think trying to figure it out, and I think there's some that are really badly wounded, and so, you know, from one minute to the next.
You don't want to say it after the prize.
Yeah. But I think it doesn't sound like there's a question of it being fundamental.
Turn that down. Hello.
My main news report was on human rights violations.
What? What?
Namely, the Uyghurs.
Why would I remember where that is? Why would I remember where that was?
My friend of mine, her sister,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
she's a mother. Literally.
And that's immoral? And it's called corridor, was it called corridor liquors?
The Uyghur mother.
How much for 30 pack?
Uyghur.
How much for 30 pack bottles?
The Prime Minister, he's this man. Yeah, huge tweet. My name,
Yeah. Yeah. Now, let me ask you, here's the next question. This is for perception. The place is asking me, because I'm getting a special food bar package. I'm getting Coors Light. So asking, how many 30 packs do you think? What do you think? That's what I say. I have the same reaction. What do you think? Right. Very good. But I mean, that's not all, perhaps the other 40 factors, wines and alcohol, Tito's.
Yeah.
30 packs?
wait to hear from you.
Seriously? Like, 230 packs?
His update, what's going on.
CBN?
Yeah.
It's not like I'm gonna get it back.
There are they at
It's
9.
not like I can bring it
in
home.
the morning. On the way to Jerusalem, very tired. We got there at 2 or 3 in the morning.
Yeah. No, they're asking me, because they don't really have Coors Light. Oh, there is. Oh, there is. No, it's a full bar. It's a full bar.
Yes. Surprised to see you there.
I'm pretty sure we are. I'm gonna double check and find out, but yes, I believe so. All right.
No, I said pleasantly. Why the surprise is not.
That's what I thought. That's why they're asking me. I don't know why they're asking me.
But I don't know if it's a good much of this. I think he was warned that it's.
Yeah. You told me. Yeah, probably right. Usually don't ask that all the time, not you can. All right, very good. Thanks, bye. Where's everybody running to?
I have no earthly idea.
Probably overlap.
That's what I'm hoping. That was 2 of our guys. Yeah, right. Stephanie and Molly.
Oh, well, it's because of the briefing going on in the Pentagon and they're doing special events.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
3 o'clock, it should happen pretty close to now.
He will get an update. talked with the Afghan.
Did she really?
Yeah, I guess.
Well,
Right. The primary easiest thing also here, and I don't know what time, even so that fluid this situation. She just had some family. That's all for now, if you do some video singing live streams Zoom interview, or you can ask a question. Okay. I think one of the questions is besides something with the family that she knows. She said she didn't know about master, but
Okay.
Which, yeah.
That's very spiritual. I mean, they're working on three goals, you know. Sorry, we're going to drop you off the wall. Yeah, well, that's true. I mean, maybe it's COVID. Yeah, well, that's right. But 600% increase?
yeah.
When the governor is telling people, you know,
You're all set up with Zoom, right, or something else. Thank you.
So, what, did they call you or something? What do you think? 4 or 5? Place up, how we get over here. Update, right? Yeah.
How about the White House? What's going on here?
The host nations that have generously provided access to their facilities for the processing, the care, and the feeding of our evacuees. I also need to acknowledge the temporary suffering that some of our evacuees have had to endure. Please know that we continue to execute our #1 mission, which is to get as many American citizens and other evacuees as possible out of Afghanistan. We also continue to expand the capacity at our intermediate facilities to ensure safe, sanitary, and humane conditions for our evacuees, while continuing to look for ultimate ways to expedite their processing and ultimate transfer to the United States or other destinations. I'd like to close out my remarks today by just taking a moment to describe the heroism that our Marines, soldiers, and sailors are exhibiting as they screen the people who are coming onto the airfield. This is close-up work. The breath of the person you are searching is upon you. While we have Overwatch in place, we still have to touch the clothes of the person that's coming in. I think you all can appreciate the courage and the dedication that is necessary to do this job, and to do it time after time. Please remember that we have screened over 104,000 people. Finally, I'd like to offer my profound condolences to the families of our servicemen and women and Afghan civilians who lost their lives today. We have put more than 5,000 U.S. service members at risk to save as many civilians as we can. It's a noble mission, and today we have seen firsthand how dangerous that mission is. ISIS will not deter us from accomplishing the mission, I can assure you of that. All Americans can and should be proud of the men and women of the armed forces who are facing these dangers head on, with their international partners and all our other friends that are with us. And we appreciate your thoughts and prayers for all our service members who are carrying on this mission today. John, I'm now ready to take questions.
Thank you, General. We'll start with Lita.
Thank you. General McKenzie, Lita Baldor with AP. Thank you for taking the time to do this. Can you give us your assessment of the ISIS threat going forward? What are you seeing on the ground now? Does this cut the evacuation short, do you believe? And are people able to get onto the airport now? And then finally, the President has warned that any attacks against the U.S. would be answered. Will this attack be answered militarily by the U.S.?
So a number of questions there. Let me try to take them in order. So first of all, the threat from ISIS is extremely real. We've been talking about this for several days. We saw it actually manifest itself here in the last few hours with an actual attack. We believe it is their desire to continue those attacks, and we expect those attacks to continue. And we're doing everything we can to be prepared for those attacks. That includes reaching out to the Taliban, who are actually providing the outer security cordon around the airfield, to make sure they know what we expect them to do to protect us. And we will continue to coordinate with them as they go forward. We are continuing to bring people onto the airfield. We just brought a number of buses aboard the airfield over the last couple of 3 hours. So we continue to process. We'll continue to float people out. The plan is designed to operate while under stress and under attack, and we will continue to do that. We will coordinate very carefully to make sure that it's safe for American citizens to come to the airfield. If it's not, we'll tell them to hold, and then we'll work other ways to try to get them to the airfield. But I think our mission remains. We're still committed to flowing people out up until we terminate operations at some point, towards the end of the month. But I think we have the ability actually to do all of those things as we go forward. Let me just come back one moment. And you talked about going after ISIS. Yes, if we can find who's associated with this, we will go after them. We've been clear all along that we're going to retain the right to operate against ISIS in Afghanistan. And we are working very hard right now to determine attribution, to determine who is associated with this cowardly attack, and we're prepared to take action against them. 24/7, we are looking for them.
David.
General David Martin with CBS. 27 casualties is a terrible number. 12 dead. Could you explain the circumstances of these attacks which resulted in such high casualties for the U.S.?
Sure, David. So first of all, you will understand that we're still investigating the exact circumstances. But what I can tell you is this. The attack occurred at a gate. And at a gate, we have to check people before they get onto the airfield. We have to ensure they're not carrying a bomb or any other kind of weapon that could ultimately make its way onto an aircraft. So that requires physical screening. You can't do that with standoff. You ultimately have to get very close to that person. So while the air base itself is surrounded with T-walls, we're well bunkered in. We've done a variety of things to protect ourselves. At these interface points, these gates where people actually come on the airfield, there's no substitute for a young man or woman, a young United States man or woman, standing up there conducting a search of that person before we let them on. Now, the Taliban have conducted searches before they get to that point, and sometimes those searches have been good and sometimes not. I will simply note that before this attack, we had passed 104,000 people through. So this attack is one too many, but we'll evaluate what happened. We'll find ways to always get better. But the key thing is you don't want to let somebody on an airplane carrying a bomb, because that could result in even massive loss of life if an airplane were to be destroyed. So you got to do the searches. We work with our Afghan partners on the ground, the NSU elements, to conduct those searches. But ultimately, Americans have got to be in danger to do these searches. There's really no other way to do it. And again, I cannot tell you how impressed I am with the daily heroism of the men and women that are out there doing this work. Typically soldiers, sailors, and Marines that are doing that work, and they're right up close to thousands of people that are flowing through the airfield. You've all seen the images, and to be able to get up and do it day after day, it's remarkable. And this time, it looks like somebody got close to us. We'll find out why. We'll try to improve our procedures. It is 12 service members dying. Nobody feels that more closely, more directly than me and everyone else in the chain of command, and we recognize that we need to continue to evaluate our procedures as we go forward. At the same time, there's a tension there. We have to continue to let people own the airfield, because that is why we are there. We're not there to defend ourselves. We're there to defend ourselves while we process American citizens first, but also the other categories of people that I've mentioned, get them to a place where we can fly them out into a safer, better future.
So just to be clear, this suicide bomber was going through the gate, being searched, checked by U.S. service members when he detonated his vest?
David, that would be my working assumption. I know this, he did not get inside, he did not get on the installation. It was at the interface point where they try to come in where this attack occurred. And we just don't know more right now. We're gathering that information. As you will understand, we're investigating that. But right now, our focus really, we have other active threat streams, extremely active threat streams against the airfield. We want to make sure that we've taken the steps we need to take to protect ourselves there. So our focus is on that. Over the next few hours, a day or two, we'll learn a lot more about what happened here, and I'm sure we'll be able to share that with you. But right now, our focus is actually going forward, ensuring that another attack of this nature does not occur, because as you know, typically the pattern is multiple attacks, and we want to be prepared and be ready to defend against that.
Courtney.
Can you, hey, General McKenzie, it's Courtney Cuby from NBC News. Can you tell us a little bit more about these extremely real additional threats from ISIS? Is it a concern about more suicide attacks? And also about some of the steps that you may be taking to mitigate future attacks? I mean, would it include putting U.S. troops or Marines outside the gates or outside of the airport for additional perimeter security? And then finally, with all of this, is there any discussion about sending any additional U.S. troops to Kabul airport for additional security measures?
So let me actually answer the last part of your question first. We assess we have the forces we need to protect ourselves there. I'm always in a constant dialogue with the Secretary. If I needed anything else, I'd be talking to him immediately, but I think we have what we need to protect ourselves. So let's talk a little bit about the threat streams. So very, very real threat streams, very, very what we would call tactical. That means imminent, could occur at any moment. And they range from rocket attacks. We know that they would like to lob a rocket in there if they could. Now, we actually have pretty good protection against that. We have our anti-rocket and mortar system, the gun systems that those of you who've been out there are very familiar with, that are pretty effective against these kinds of attack. We are well positioned around the boundary of the airfield, and we feel that we will be in good shape should that kind of attack occur. We also know they aim to get a vehicle-borne suicide attack in if they can, from a small vehicle to a large vehicle. They're working all those options. And then we've just seen their ability to deliver a walk-in, a vest-wearing suicide attacker. All of those things we look at. Now, the other thing we do is we share versions of this information with the Taliban so that they can actually do some searching out there for us, and we believe that some attacks have been thwarted by them. Again, we've been doing this we've been doing this since the 14th. This is an attack that's been carried out. We believe it's possible that others have been thwarted. We cut down the information we give the Taliban. They don't get the full range of information we have, but we give them enough to act in time and space to try to prevent these attacks. The other thing we try to do is we try to push out the boundary even further so that we don't get large crowds massing at the gate. Clearly, at Abbey Gate today, we had a larger crowd there than we would like, which goes to show you that the system is not perfect. But we have gained large elements of standoff at other gates, and we want to keep that kind of standoff in place. As you know, standoff for attacks like this is always the best defense. Unfortunately, we just don't have the opportunity, given the geography of the ground that we're on, to always gain that kind of standoff. So let me close up your question by saying, we take the threat of these attacks very seriously. We're working them very hard. We're doing a variety of things. We got, as you know, we have AH-64 attack helicopters on the ground that we're flying to take a look. They have very good thermal and optical imaging systems. We got aircraft overhead that also have very good imaging systems. We have unmanned aircraft, MQ-9s, that have the ability to look. All of these systems are being applied in defense of the airfield, all of it on a continual basis, all of them vectored by the intelligence that we receive, and then we also use the Taliban as a tool to protect us as much as possible.
I'm going to go to the phone, so I haven't done that yet. Alex Horton, Washington Post. Alex, you there?
Yep, just unmuting. Hey, General, this is Alex Horton with the Washington Post. Thanks for doing this. Can you give us a sense of where you are in casualty notification for these folks on the ground? How long do you expect it to take, given that it's a large number? And also, can you tell us a little bit about, how the forces have reacted? You said that you introduced a little, probably more standoff at this point, but what are other measures you're taking to increase security after the attack?
Sure. So I would actually defer you to the services for notification of casualties. That's a function that the services provide. And I believe that process is ongoing, but I do not have visibility on it. My visibility is fully forward against the day-to-day practical threat that we face in the theater. But there are other people who can probably then answer that question for you. I'm just not that person, Alex. So in terms of practical things that we're doing, okay, again, we've reached out to the Taliban. We've told them you need to continue to push out the security perimeter. We've identified some roads that we would like for them to close. They've identified that they will be willing to close those roads because we assess the threat of a suicide-borne vehicle threat is high right now. So we want to reduce the possibility of one of those vehicles getting close. And so we're actually moving very aggressively to do that. We talked a little bit about the overwatch that we have in place, but I'll review it again. We have our unmanned aircraft, our MQ-9s, and other unmanned drone systems that have very good optical and other means of looking down. So we look at what's happening around the gate. We try to identify patterns, and we got highly trained people that take a look at that. We also have our aircraft that we fly locally, the AH-64s that I mentioned a few moments ago, as well as other manned aircraft that come off the USS, off the carrier that we have off the Makran coast, as well as U.S. Air Force aircraft that we bring up from out of Afghanistan. Everything ranging from F-15s to AC-130 gunships. And as you know, the AC-130 gunship has a very highly capable targeting system, and it's also a very visible platform. And we know from long experience that visible demonstration of these kinds of ISR tends to dissuade the attacker because they know that if we can see them do it, we're going to strike them immediately. So we'll be prepared to do that should it become necessary to defend the base. We're looking very hard. We assess we are in a period of heightened warning right now, and we're working through that as aggressively as we can. Over.
Gordon.
Yeah, General, Gordon Wolf on the Wall Street Journal. Can you tell us if you think that your recommendation for staying potentially after August 31st would change because of this threat stream? Or are you concerned about the threat stream? And also, you know, the U.S. military and the Taliban have been coordinating very closely on various things. Do you still trust the Taliban, and is it possible that they let this happen?
So as to whether or not they let it happen, I don't know. I don't think there's anything to convince me that they let it happen. As to whether or not I trust them, that's not necessarily that's a word I use very carefully. You've heard me say before, it's not what they say, it's what they do. They have a practical reason for wanting us to get out of here by the 31st of August, and that's that they want to reclaim the airfield. We want to get out by that day too, if it's going to be possible to do so. So we share a common purpose. As long as we've kept that common purpose aligned, they've been useful to work with. They've cut some of our security concerns down, and they've been useful to work with going forward. Now, long term, I don't know what that's going to be. I will tell you this: anytime you build a non-combatant evacuation plan like this, and you bring in forces, you expect to be attacked. So we expect, we thought this would happen sooner or later. It's tragic that it happened today. It's tragic there was this much loss of life. We are prepared to continue the mission. I've had a great opportunity to have dialogue with my chain of command on it, and I'm not going to be able to share with you what my advice has been, as you know and understand, Gordon. But I think we can continue to conduct our mission even while we're receiving attacks like this. Over.
Eric?
General Eric Schmidt with the New York Times. Even before today's attack, you were just 4 days or so from leaving. How soon will you have to start diminishing the evacuation flights, if indeed those can continue, to make space and time for the military retrograde, that is the withdrawal of the remaining troops there and their equipment?
So, Eric, without getting into specifics, I would tell you that the plan is designed to maximize throughput of evacuees even as we begin to prepare to draw down the force on the ground. So we recognize there's a need to balance the two. So we're not going to get to a point where suddenly we turn off the spigot. It will draw down as we get closer to the end date. It's not useful for me to share that date with you right now when we will begin to draw down those flights, but we will do it at some point. At the same time, I want to emphasize again, the plan is designed to maximize pushing people out even as we reconfigure the force, continue to defend ourselves, and get ready to bring out our own equipment and ultimately our own military personnel.
And General, if I could just follow up on that, will you have to also develop alternative routes beyond those that you already have to get the remaining Americans in Kabul who want to leave safely to the airport?
So I would tell you that we have worked over the last week. We have brought in hundreds of Americans by working alternate routes to get them in, by establishing contact with them, by directing them down a steady different ways to get to the airport. Our task force, our JSOC element, does that on the ground very effectively in coordination with Admiral Vaisley, who's the overall commander there. So we continue to do that. That's not something that we're beginning now. We've done that all along, and we will continue to do that up until the last moment.
Jennifer.
General McKenzie, Jennifer Griffin, Fox News. Can you say, was there one or two suicide bombers at the Abbey Gate? And can you say for certain that it was a male bomber? And can you give us any more details about the second explosion that occurred at Barron Hotel? Was that a VBID? Was that a car bomb? Or was that also a suicide bomber? Finally, there are State Department employees who are side by side with U.S. Marines at that gate. Were there any other U.S. citizens killed in the attack? And why were the Marines so close together that so many were killed in one strike?
So we think one suicide bomb at Abbey Gate. Don't know if it was male or female. Just don't have that information. Don't know much about the second bomb, except one went off in the vicinity of the Barron Hotel, which, as you're aware, is a deeply bunkered structure. And as far as I know, there were no UK military casualties as a result of that. There may have been Afghan casualties, and I'm sure there were Afghan casualties. But it will take us a little bit of time to actually learn how many Afghans became casualties. We took some of them on board the installation. Many of them were taken to hospitals out in town. So what I see is what I get on open source reporting about the nature of those casualties. But we're trying to gather more information about it. So the last point, I would tell you, I don't know the size of the bomb, and the size of the bomb is directly related to how many people are going to be affected by the blast radius of the weapon. We are going to investigate that. As I've noted before, you're at the interface point there at these gates. Somebody's actually got to look someone else in the eyes and decide that they're ready to come in. And so we'll find out exactly what happened. Beyond that, I would not want to speculate at this time, Jennifer. Thank you.
Any other American citizens from the State Department who were killed?
None that I am aware of now.
Okay, I need to go back to the phones. Laura Seligman.
Hi, General. Thanks so much for doing this. A couple questions. First of all, can you tell me, we've heard reports of a third and possibly a fourth attack in Kabul today. Can you confirm those? And then also, can you tell us how exactly are you still conducting these evacuation flights? Are you concerned about manpads and other threats to the aircraft?
First of all, indications of other attacks in Kabul, but we have not been able to run that information down. So we see it. We get open source reporting on it, but I can't confirm that there have been other attacks in Kabul away from HKIA today. We continue to take a look at that very hard. I will tell you this: the safety of our aircraft coming in and out is of paramount importance, because obviously you have the opportunity there for 450 or more people to die if you have a significant mishap with the aircraft. We know that ISIS would like to get after those aircraft if they can. We don't believe they have a manpad capable of doing it. They have taken shots at our aircraft on occasion without effect. We think that's going to continue. But as you know, military aircraft have a variety of self-defense systems. What's more vulnerable actually are the charter aircraft and other aircraft that are coming in that do not have those systems. So with our ISR, we look very carefully at the approach pattern and the departure pattern off that runway to see to see if we see any sign of something that might pose a threat to aircraft. That's one of the things that we look at religiously throughout the day and throughout the night as we conduct operations. Because really, the aircraft, the only way we're going to get people out of there. So we are keenly sensitive threats to our aircraft.
Okay, we're going to take one more question. I'm sorry, guys, we got to keep moving. We're going to take one more question and then give the General a chance to close out. Idris?
Sure, General, I know it's still early, but at this moment in time, how do you believe the suicide bombers made it through several checkpoints, whether it was Taliban or Afghan forces, to the Marines? Do you believe it was a failure, or they were able to somehow evade them and make it to the Marines?
Well, clearly, if they were able to get up to the Marines at the screening at the entry point of the base, there's a failure somewhere. It was a failure by, the Taliban operate with varying degrees of competence. Some of those guys are very scrupulously good. Some of them are not. I just don't know the answer to that question. But we will. You can be assured we're going to continue to take a look at it and try to make all our practices better as we go forward.
Okay, General, sir, we're going to let the general close out. General, sir, for any closing thoughts you might have, sir.
Hey, John, thanks. Again, I would just like to say today's a hard day, but the thing I come back to is the remarkable professionalism that the force on the ground is showing. As I've noted before, ultimately at these screening points in particular, you've got to get very up close and personal to the people that you're bringing out. There's no way to do that safely from a distance. And we should all just bear in mind that we've been doing it for well over a week. We brought 104,000 people out. That's a tremendous number of contacts that every individual has had to have as we bring people aboard the airfield. It's a very heavy heart, that I do this conversation with you today. Nobody feels it more than me or the other members of the chain of command. We'll do everything we can to improve our practices there, to make sure it's as safe as possible for our folks on the ground that are doing this dirty, dangerous work. John, thanks very much.
Thank you, General. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
John, will you take a couple questions?
No, that's going to be the end of it.
Chatter back there. I don't see anything yet.
Hey, I'm bringing some of this stuff in.
Oh, shit. I didn't even think about that, dude. I didn't know it was right. It's right.
No, it's on the cover of it. It's something to get a part of it. I mean, I think that's not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
And he's not.
You're making me a hero now. I'm gonna tell him I forced you to. They're sending something out soon. Huh? They're sending an update soon.
Can you make sure that
Well, Jake, we're gonna have a press meeting right here. Better be in here than out in the rain. Kevin's response was actually go home. Where's the thunder originally come from? Patrick. I'm ready.
That's what I heard. I haven't heard that talking.
Does anybody know anything besides what?
No.
Why does he say that? I guess pull it up.
Edward Earp. He knows.
I don't know how he knows.
Yeah. Okay, that was me. Yeah. That's all. Don't worry. It's like, woo-hoo, there he is. I'm scared. I'm scared.
You good to go?
Is it time to go home?
The camera should be 6 feet away from each other. You don't want to cut.
I think he's going to be on the east wall. I think we'll be on the west.
No, I think they're going to be so. The plug in the west.
Okay. Where's the cuts?
Can't see from the.
He's going to bring everybody up. It's just going to be like a... No, I mean in terms of what? Why would he set it up the long way?
He always has. Every time he goes to the east, that's.
Okay.
The Lord's get upset.
Yeah, so we got the...
I mean, you don't need me to go.
Oh, of course not.
I could be here in case there's a problem.
I
probably more helpful down here. It's an issue.
Yeah, don't, yeah.
I see no reason. I really don't. I think, where am I going to be the most useful? I mean, it's very productive. Only one person speaking. But down here,
Guidance. What is it?
In my shooting notes out of the bag.
So, we're thinking eastern and west.
If that's the case, then.
I have it posted here. This changes. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
The head on.
One of those.
And number 2. That class okay?
Yes. Because I just will say, not that it matters. The last time we were up there, we pulled the panel for the east. So head on was where you said, Denver was on the north, Touch was on the east, we ran to the east. That was me and Sherry and Melissa and somebody.
And where was C? Where was President?
On the south. But like midway. In fact, I'll show you.
So the cut was on the east side? But how far away?
Like you said, maybe 25 feet. That was for your end.
So you can run a cable, you run an audio cable to
No. They had they had drops. They had a mult where Melissa was her head on, and they had a little 6x by us. But that's where he set the podium, so that's about halfway.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so he was way up from the back wall. And we put us over here. So obviously I'm on the east, and Melissa's back here. I think because everybody's coming in through those doors, they didn't want us running to the west.
So we can do it to the east?
Yeah. So that's
fine.
Okay.
I mean, do you do that yourself or do you want me to do it?
No, yeah, we'll figure it out. Yeah. You don't happen to have, is there, I didn't see, but I thought there was another splitter in that blue bag.
Splitter for what?
So, Melissa, we put audio in the back of her. Instead of feeding her wireless, I'll have her plug directly in the back and out of the channels.
And you would be on it head on, Brian?
Yes.
You'll both.
And I plug in the back in.
And she should have her own,
Right. But I don't, maybe we can just give her one channel audio. Just a straight up XLR.
Yeah, I mean, cuts, you know.
I put,
And then put the camera mic on too for that?
Good, she said the problem.
I just don't want to be confused, because sometimes they're like, well, wait a minute, here, it sounds like off mic.
I know, but that's, I mean, you've got the head on, 2 channels coming at you head on. I'd be surprised if they use it, for what reason they have that head on. But the cut is only good for walking in the park.
Or if they take a question.
That's probably a good question.
Well, I'll assess it when I get up there. Last time they had a couple shop drawings, floor stands in front of where
If you came through the wall.
yeah, they came through the wall, so it was fine. I had my phone ready, but, and he just walked off anyway.
Yeah, I don't.
No, I know. I was like, this is good.
You good?
Good as it gets.
Okay. Let's see how it works. Let me know what's going on.
Alright. I don't know. Now it's yep, I got you. Alright.
Well, cell right above our head.
Is that what it is? That's sweet. That kind of tells you the state of the world right there.
Well, that kind of tells you to stay inside at the moment.
Yeah, there's a problem with those two.
Loves that body.
You know, they bring us up to 4:30 and meet us up there. To present these things. Is there going to be gone, but we're doing. The world was ending. It's like 5 p.m. Somehow I like magic. I feel like this goes on the wet swamp that they get here looks perfect. Waterproof. It's like the water body is a little thing. No. My shirt doesn't look pressed like fine. It doesn't have
Okay, Doug. Do this, baby. You ready? You got everything?
Yeah.
Two cameras and setup. Twins.
I do know the kind of place to set up a parking. Is that right?
So this was the two stories.
I think that should work.
This
Do you have a time?
and then the pool will
Okay.
another floor down. So
Okay.
this is
I should be able to. Okay, let me try to find time that ideal. In a tight working space.
Still standing for now.
Yep, fine.
Yeah, no. Melissa?
So he doesn't know exactly the last just for cameras for us. He's going to go back and select this. What's that for us? Focus stops. Okay, so Brian's children. This room, we don't know if it's but we don't know if it's sound.
I mean, worst case scenario, they should have making a swimming pool. It's so much better since I've seen that with green.
Yeah, really still within my tent for a bit, and I was like, oh, this is the spot.
Gente, escuta. Vocês querem trocar, vocês querem trocar essa da entrada coletiva ou não? Vocês querem fazer ao vivo? Se eu... Tá bom, beleza.
That's up to you. I don't know if you're that's, yeah, because it's
That'll be good. Rainstorm.
Will, there's a storm happening on several fronts, actually.
Should be stopped within 10 minutes. Continue. They say 10 minutes.
Two other like let us know that the storm is in there.
No. So now 50 minutes. Jump to 50 minutes.
Well, just wait for the snow. But we don't need an earthquake. No earthquake.
No, I'm trying to make sure I'm not everyone else.
Oh, you're good.
Do you have a hit though?
Yeah.
Okay. What's that? Who's that?
Yeah.
What do you want at 95?
Well, just, yeah, 95 would be fine. I like 95.
Yeah, I know, I thought about it.
Yeah, sounds good. Right. Right there, I got you.
You do 95?
Yes, I'm going to do that right now.
Good call, I got you.
Okay. Yep, it's here.
Yeah, I see that.
And it's at 70, I'll put it up at 95. Okay, and you got a little gain if you need, I don't think you need more than enough gain.
I don't think they need any gain.
No, absolutely.
The zebras are used to 95. I know there's a 70, 68.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, you got
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It's going to be the same as normally. That's how we figure.
okay, so be already right balanced, you got a 4-6. You good to go?
Good to go.
Yeah. 4-6. Okay.
Am I good?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll do about,
You got the audio, did that.
white now?
You know, don't forget the angle on that one. All right.
Okay. Do cuts until you guys show up.
Okay.
Are you good? Are you comfortable with what everything's going on?
Yes.
Okay, you got cables and everything there?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to come down, pull me up, patch it. So I get this over. Right here. 10 is going to do that on. Until I show it.
So it's time.
Take over.
I'm thankful what time is it
The
there?
coverage.
Okay, White House
Back up there. Yeah, okay. Okay.
Good to go.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Vai continuar a missão lá para retirar todos os trabalhadores que ainda estão lá. O governo americano tem cerca de 1.500 pessoas estejam lá. Quase 1.000 ainda estejam ativamente querendo sair do país. Deve prometer que todos vão voltar para casa. Eles também querem prometer que vai retaliar a essa taxa. Deve dizer que os responsáveis pagarão. Como foi explicado, foi falado que eles vão atrás de quem fez. A gente sabe que já tem aviões militares sobrevoando Cabul neste momento. E o governo americano alerta que outros ataques de agressão possíveis, hoje ataques como esse, outros costumam acontecer na sequência. Então, há ainda uma ameaça ativa ali em Cabul. Então, a gente deve ouvir o presidente falando nessa linha em meio às muitas críticas nessa sala de imprensa, os jornalistas esperando desde muito cedo. Porque havia uma expectativa de que o de Israel vai ser esse não jornalista foi cancelado, vai ser cancelado, às 6 horas da tarde, em horário de Washington, e logo depois, aqui nessa sala de imprensa, a porta-voz também vai responder perguntas dos jornalistas. Uma das coisas que a gente escuta bastante aqui também é que fazer agora com esses diálogos. Vocês falaram que tinha pegando os pés da moda, sair do país através daquele programa especial de visto, 250 milhões estão lá aguardando. Eu conversei essa semana com um afegão que já está aqui nos Estados Unidos há anos, há 5 anos, há mais de 5 anos, e ele estava aguardando a família chegar e estava muito preocupado, porque desde 2016 a família dele aplicou para esse visto especial de imigrante que é dado para os afegãos, também iraquianos, que necessitaram, que ajudaram os Estados Unidos nessa guerra, o governo americano, mas eles estavam muito revoltados porque não teve nenhuma resposta até agora, já faz mais de 5 anos. E a gente tem que lembrar que grande parte é do governo anterior, que encerrou, que reduziu muito esse programa. Toda a imigração dos Estados Unidos, a gente falou muito aqui que durante o último governo a migração foi uma das áreas mais afetadas, impedindo a entrada dessas pessoas aqui, e agora ele está sobrecarregado. Esse governo corre para tentar permitir que essas pessoas saiam de lá, já retiraram mais de 100 mil pessoas desde julho, desde dia 14 de agosto, quando saiu da tomou o poder ali, mais de quase 100 mil pessoas foram retiradas, muitas afegãs, que vão chegando aqui nos Estados Unidos e vão indo são encaminhados para a base americana, para amigos americanos de lá, eles não podem sair, precisam ficar lá aguardando esse processo de imigração avançado. O processo vai demorar muito, ainda não tem certeza para essas famílias. Eu conversei com várias famílias que vieram sozinhas, que não sabiam aonde os outros parentes estavam, eles se perdem no meio do caminho, alguns vão parar em países diferentes, outros não sabem para ver. Uma ligação de uma afegã que está lá na Califórnia, me ligou para perguntar se podia ajudar ela a encontrar uma amiga que aparentemente estava nos aviões vindo para os Estados Unidos. Então, a falta de informação, a muita confusão, o Joe Biden está numa grande encrenca, vai ter que responder às críticas. Hoje vamos ver qual vai ser o novo presidente. Ele foi muito criticado, a gente lembra, no primeiro posicionamento que ele fez aqui sobre depois de toda a tomada de Cabul, porque ele não mostrou empatia para as pessoas e saiu apontando os dedos, tanto para a administração anterior, quanto também para os líderes do Afeganistão, que, segundo Biden, deixaram o Talibã tomar o poder. Então, vamos ver como começou todo o presidente hoje. O presidente falou mais algumas vezes sobre o Talibã, mostrou um pouco mais de empatia, com as cenas aí. Essa semana eu perguntei, inclusive, para o assessor público, para o assessor de segurança nacional do presidente Biden, Alexandre, aqui nessa sala de imprensa, apenas ali no Afeganistão. Se ele achava que é certo dizer agora que os Estados Unidos estão de volta no cenário global diante dessas cenas. E ele, em vez de focar, em vez de responder sobre todo o sofrimento que a gente tem acompanhado lá com milhares de pessoas tentando escapar do Talibã, ele focou. O que eu vejo agora são cenas dos nossos militares arriscando as suas vidas lá para retirar americanos e para retirar também afegãos de lá do país e nossos aliados. Então, essa é a mensagem que foi isso. Agora, esses militares americanos já 12 mortos e 500 feridos ali. Era algo que a gente tinha falado mais cedo, o presidente disse que o objetivo do Afeganistão tinha sido conquistado, que era matar Bin Laden, que na verdade foi morto no Paquistão, e também acabar com esses grupos terroristas ali. O presidente disse que esses grupos não são mais uma presença significativa lá, significante, importante lá no país, apesar de Bin Laden dizer que a Al-Qaeda, o Estado Islâmico, ainda tem presença lá. E agora, hoje, a gente vê que eles conseguiram, então, realizar esse ataque que vinha sendo já as autoridades de segurança, de inteligência, que vinham alertando para a possibilidade de um ataque em horas, desde ontem à noite, pedindo que todos os cidadãos americanos e de outros países saíssem de lá de perto do aeroporto, porque havia essa possibilidade do Estado Islâmico. A gente lembra que combatentes do Estado Islâmico, muitos deles estavam presos ali no Afeganistão, e eles foram aí, escaparam com o avanço do Talibã, com a medida que eles iam avançando e libertando os seus combatentes terroristas. Então agora que a expectativa, a empresa continua aqui esperando, quem vai conseguir entrar nesse pronunciamento do presidente Joe Biden não vai ser o
have a hard stop at 3:30. So with that, General McKenzie, over to you, sir.
John, thanks. It's a hard day today.
Good. Down? Good? It just like hollow a little. With 50 people, it'll be okay. No, definitely not. Audio check, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Go ahead. You need an actual screwdriver or something? Because I'll go get it. I thought we had some. Flathead. Trying to tighten the tripod. Audio check. Audio check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. And how's your audio? Yes.
Same distance to the podium.
Audio check, 1, 2, 1, 2. Audio check, audio check. All right, 30 more seconds of audio checks. I gotta head out. Or just now. You have your audio that you need? Okay.
Thanks, sir. Yep. Seth, you good? Shoes.
Just now? 2.7? Pretty close. Okay. Okay.
Likely reflects the increases that we're seeing in routine screening testing, which, as you know, primarily occurs among people who have no symptoms. Our daily average case rate with a 3-day lag is now
Ladies and gentlemen, please silence your phones. Thank you.
Okay, hold on. Brian, go back to Bart. Go back to Bart? Yeah. Sorry about that.
A tough day. This evening in Kabul, as you all know, terrorists attacked that we've been talking about and worried about, that the intelligence community has assessed, has undertaken an attack by a group known as ISIS-K. Took the lives of American service members, standing guard at the airport, and wounded several others seriously. He had also wounded a number of civilians, and civilians were killed as well. I've been engaged all day in constant contact with the military commanders here in Washington and the Pentagon, as well as in Afghanistan and Doha. And my commanders here in Washington in the field have been on this with great detail, and you've had a chance to speak to some so far. The situation on the ground is still evolving, and I'm constantly being updated. These American service members who gave their lives, it's an overused word, but it's totally appropriate here, were heroes. Heroes who've been engaged in a dangerous, selfless mission to save the lives of others. They're a part of an airlift, an evacuation effort unlike any seen in history, with more than 100,000 American citizens, American partners, Afghans who helped us, and others taken to safety in the last 11 days. Just in the last 12 hours or so, another 7,000 have gotten out. They were part of the bravest, most capable, the most selfless military on the face of the earth. And they're part of simply what I call the backbone of America. They're the spine of America, the best the country has to offer. Jill and I, our hearts ache, like I'm sure all of you do as well, for all those Afghan families who lost loved ones, including small children, or been wounded in this vicious attack. And we're outraged as well as heartbroken. Being the father of an Army major who served for a year in Iraq, and before that was in Kosovo as a U.S. attorney for the better part of 6 months in the middle of a war. When he came home after a year in Iraq, was diagnosed, like many, many coming home, with an aggressive and lethal cancer of the brain. We lost. We have some sense, like many of you do, what the families of these brave heroes are feeling today. You get this feeling like you're being sucked into a black hole in the middle of your chest. There's no way out. My heart aches for you. But I know this. We have a continuing obligation, a sacred obligation, to all of you, the families of those heroes. That obligation is not temporary, it lasts forever. The lives we lost today were lives given in the service of liberty, the service of security, in the service of others, in the service of America. Like their fellow brothers and sisters in arms who died defending our vision and our values in the struggle against terrorism, of the fallen this day, they're part of a great and noble company of American heroes. To those who carried out this attack, as well as anyone who wishes America harm, know this: we will not forgive. We will not forget. We will hunt you down and make you pay. I will defend our interests and our people with every measure at my command. Over the past few weeks, I know many of you are probably tired of hearing me say it. We've been made aware by our intelligence community that the ISIS-K, an arch enemy of the Taliban, people who were freed when both those prisons were opened, has been planning a complex set of attacks on the United States personnel and others. This is why, from the outset, I've repeatedly said this mission was extraordinarily dangerous, and why I've been so determined to limit the duration of this mission. As General McKenzie said, this is why our mission was designed, this is the way it was designed to operate. Operating under severe stress and attack. We've known that from the beginning. As I've been in constant contact with our senior military leaders, and I mean constant, round the clock, and our commanders on the ground and throughout the day, they made it clear that we can and we must complete this mission, and we will. And that's what I've ordered them to do. We will not be deterred by terrorists. We will not let them stop our mission. We will continue the evacuation. I've also ordered my commanders to develop operational plans to strike ISIS-K assets, leadership, and facilities. We will respond with force and precision at our time, at the place we choose, in the moment of our choosing. Here's what you need to know. These ISIS terrorists will not win. We will rescue the Americans who are there. We will get our Afghan allies out, and our mission will go on. America will not be intimidated, and I have the utmost confidence in our brave service members who continue to execute this mission with courage and honor to save lives and get Americans, our partners, our Afghan allies out of Afghanistan. Every day when I talk to our commanders, I ask them what they need. What more do they need, if anything, to get the job done? As they will tell you, I granted every request. I reiterated to them today on 3 occasions that they should take the maximum steps necessary to protect our forces on the ground in Kabul. And I also want to thank the Secretary of Defense and the military leadership of the Pentagon and all the commanders in the field. There has been complete unanimity from every commander on the objectives of this mission and the best way to achieve those objectives. Those who have served through the ages have drawn inspiration from the book of Isaiah, when the Lord says, "Whom shall I send? Who shall go for us?" The American military has been answering for a long time. "Here I am, Lord, send me. Here I am, send me." Each one of these women and men of our armed forces are the heirs of that tradition of sacrifice, of volunteering to go in harm's way, to risk everything, not for glory, not for profit, but to defend what we love and the people we love. And I ask that you join me now in a moment of silence for all those in uniform and out of uniform, military and civilian, who have given the last full measure of devotion. Thank you. May God bless you all, and may God protect the troops and all those standing watch for America. We have so much to do. It's within our capacity to do it. We just have to remain steadfast. Steadfast. We will complete our mission, and we will continue after our troops have withdrawn to find means by which we can find any American who wishes to get out of Afghanistan. We will find them and we will get them out. Ladies and gentlemen, they gave me a list here. The first person I was instructed to call on was Kelly O'Donnell of NBC.
You have said leaving Afghanistan is in the national interest of the United States. After today's attack, do you believe you will authorize additional forces to respond to that attack inside Afghanistan? And are you prepared to add additional forces to protect those Americans who remain on the ground carrying out the evacuation operation?
I've instructed the military, whatever they need, if they need additional force, I will grant it. But the military, from the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the commanders in the field, have all contacted me one way or another, usually by letter, saying they subscribe to the mission as designed to get as many people out as we can within the time frame that is allotted. That is the best way, they believe, to get as many Americans out as possible and others. And with regard to finding, tracking down the ISIS leaders who ordered this, we have some reason to believe we know who they are, not certain, and we will find ways of our choosing without large military operations to get them wherever they are. Trevor, Reuters.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's been some criticism, even from people in your party, about the dependence on the Taliban to secure the perimeter of the airport. Do you feel like there was a mistake made in that regard?
No, I don't. Look, I think General McKenzie handled this question very well. The fact is that we're in a situation, we inherited a situation, particularly since, as we all know, that the Afghan military collapsed 11 days before, in 11 days, that it is in the interest of, as McKenzie said, in the interest of the Taliban, that, in fact, ISIS-K does not metastasize beyond what it is, number one. And number two, it's in their interest that we are able to leave on time, on target. And as a consequence of that, the major things we've asked them, moving back the perimeter, giving more space between the wall, stopping vehicles from coming through, etc., searching people coming through. It is not what you'd call a tightly commanded, regimented operation like the U.S. is, the military is, but they're acting in their interest. And so, by and large, and I've asked this same question to military on the ground, whether or not it's a useful exercise. No one trusts them. We're just counting on their self-interest to continue to generate their activities. And it's in their self-interest that we leave when we said, and that we get as many people out as we can. Like I said, even in the midst of everything happened today, over 7,000 people we've gotten out, over 5,000 Americans overall. So it's not a matter of trust, it's a matter of mutual self-interest. But there is no evidence thus far that I've been given as a consequence by any of our commanders in the field that there has been collusion between the Taliban and ISIS in carrying out what happened today, both in front of the hotel and what is expected to continue for beyond today. Amir, Associated Press.
Thank you, Mr. President. You have spoken, again, powerfully about your own son and the weight of these decisions. With that in mind, and also what you've said, that the longer we stay, the more likelihood that there would be a major attack. How do you weigh staying even one more day, considering what's happened?
Because I think what America says matters. What we say we're going to do in the context in which we say we're going to do it, that we do it, unless something exceptional changes. There are additional American citizens. There are additional green card holders. There are additional personnel of our allies. There are additional SIV card holders. There are additional Afghans that have helped us. And there are additional groups of individuals that have been contacted us, from women's groups to NGOs and others, who have expressly indicated they want to get out and have gathered in certain circumstances in groups, on buses and other means. That still presents the opportunity for, in the next several days, between now and the 31st, to be able to get them out. And our military, and I believe, to the extent that we can do that, knowing the threat, knowing that we may very well have another attack, the military has concluded that's what we should do. I think they're right. I think they're correct. And after that, we're going to be in a circumstance where there will be, I believe, numerous opportunities to continue to provide access for additional persons to get out of Afghanistan, either through means that we provide and or are provided through in cooperation with the Taliban. They're not good guys, the Taliban. We're not suggesting that at all. But they have keen interest. As many of you have been reporting, they very much would like to figure out how to keep the airport open. They don't have the capacity to do it. They very much are trying to figure out whether or not they can maintain what is the portion of an economy that has become not robust, but fundamentally different than it had been. And so there's a lot of reasons why they have reached out, not just to us, but to others, as to why it would be continued in their interest to get more of the personnel we want to get out. We can locate them. Now, there's not many left that we can assess that want to come out. There's some Americans we've identified, we've contacted the vast majority of them, not all of them, who don't want to leave because they're dual nationals, they have extended families, etc. And there's others who are looking for the time. So that's why we continue. I'll take a few more questions, but you, sir.
I wanted to ask
but
you,
that's okay.
you say that what America says matters. What do you say to the Afghans who helped troops who may not be able to get out by August 31st?
I say we're going to continue to try to get you out. It matters. Look, I know of no conflict as a student of history, no conflict where when a war was ending, one side was able to guarantee that everyone they wanted to be extracted from that country would get out. And think about it, folks. I think it's important. I know the American people get this in their gut. There are, I would argue, millions of Afghani citizens who are not Taliban, who did not actively cooperate with us as SIVs, who, if given a chance, they'd be on board a plane tomorrow. It sounds ridiculous, but the vast majority of people in communities like that want to come to America, given a choice. So getting every single person out can't be guaranteed by anybody because there's a determination all who wants to get out as well. At any rate, it's a process. I was really pointing to you, but you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. There are reports that U.S. officials provided the Taliban with names of Americans and Afghan officials to evacuate. Were you aware of that? Did that happen? And then, sir, did you personally reject a recommendation to hold or to recapture Bagram Air Force Base?
Here's what I've done. Answer the last question first. On the tactical questions of how to conduct an evacuation or a war, I gather up all the major military personnel that are in Afghanistan, the commanders, as well as the Pentagon. And I ask for their best military judgment. What would be the most efficient way to accomplish the mission? They concluded, the military, that Bagram was not much value added, that it was much wiser to focus on Kabul. And so I followed that recommendation. With regard to, there are certain circumstances where we've gotten information, and quite frankly, sometimes from some of you, saying you know of such and such a group of people or trying to get out, and they're on a bus, they're moving from other people. And this is their location. And there have been occasions when our military has contacted their military counterparts in the Taliban and said, this, for example, this bus is coming through with X number of people on it, made up of the following group of people. We want you to let that bus or that group through. So yes, there have been occasions like that. And to the best of my knowledge, in those cases, the bulk of that has occurred, they've been let through. But I can't tell you with any certitude that there's actually been a list of names. I know there may have been, but I know of no circumstance. It doesn't mean it didn't exist. That here's the names of 12 people, they're coming, let them through. It could very well have happened. I'll take one more question. Wait. Let me take the one question from the most interesting guy that I know in the press. That's you.
Mr. President, there had not been a U.S. service member killed in combat in Afghanistan since February of 2020. You set a deadline, you pulled troops out, you sent troops back in, and now 12 Marines are dead. You said the buck stops with you. Do you bear any responsibility for the way that things have unfolded in the last 2 weeks?
I bear responsibility for fundamentally all that's happened of late. Here's the deal. You know, I wish you'd one day say these things. You know as well as I do that the former president made a deal with the Taliban that he would get all American forces out of Afghanistan by May 1. In return, the commitment was made, and that was a year before. In return, he was given a commitment that the Taliban would continue to attack others, but would not attack any American forces. Remember that? I'm being serious. No, I'm asking you a question. Because before... No, wait a minute. I'm asking you a question. Is that accurate, the best of your knowledge? What?
I don't think that the issue is, do you think that people have an issue with pulling out of Afghanistan or just the way that things have happened?
I think they have an issue that people are likely to get hurt. Some, as we've seen, have gotten killed, and that it is messy. The reason why, whether my friend will acknowledge it or has reported it, the reason why there were no attacks on Americans, as you said, from the date until I came into office, was because the commitment was made by President Trump, I will be out by May 1st. In the meantime, you agree not to attack any Americans. That was the deal. That's why no American was attacked.
A few days ago, you said you squarely stand by your decision to pull out.
Yes, I do, because look at it this way, folks, and I have another meeting for real. But imagine where we'd be if I had indicated on May the 1st I was not going to renegotiate an evacuation date. We were going to stay there. I'd have only one alternative: pour thousands of more troops back into Afghanistan to fight a war that we had already won relative to why the reason we went in the first place. I have never been of the view that we should be sacrificing American lives to try to establish a democratic government in Afghanistan, a country that has never once in its entire history been a united country and is made up, I don't mean this in a derogatory, made up of different tribes who have never, ever, ever gotten along with one another. And so, as I said before, and this is the last comment I'll make, we'll have more chance to talk about this, unfortunately, beyond, because we're not out yet. If Osama bin Laden, as well as al-Qaeda, had chosen to launch an attack when they left Saudi Arabia out of Yemen, would we have ever gone to Afghanistan? Even though the Taliban completely controlled Afghanistan at the time, would we have ever gone? I know it's not fair to ask you questions, it's rhetorical, but raise your hand if you think we should have gone and given up thousands of lives and tens of thousands of wounded. Our interest in going was to prevent al-Qaeda from reemerging, first to get bin Laden, wipe out al-Qaeda in Afghanistan, prevent that from happening again. As I've said 100 times, terrorism is metastasized around the world. We have greater threats coming out of other countries, a heck of a lot closer to the United States. We don't have military encampments there. We don't keep people there. We have over-the-horizon capability to keep them from going after us. Ladies and gentlemen, it was time to end a 20-year war. Thank you so much.
Recognize the Taliban as the government?
President.